It is a truth universally acknowledged that the end of the year is in want of some reflection. And what better way to reflect on 2024 than to focus on our favorite reads of the year? I've compiled my favorite reads of winter, spring, summer, and fall to share with you today. Get ready for all the gushing and all the skits, and I hope you find some books to love as well. Without further ado, let's go. Hey there, you might be expecting an intro, and I have one, but I don't know if it's too silly. I decided to keep it because I worked hard on it, but it is really silly. If you don't mind watching a grown woman be ridiculous and attempt to spoof an 80s power ballad while sobbing over the fact that the Berkeley Publishing Company has yet to send her an advanced reader's copy or ARC, you can go ahead and watch this. Otherwise, just go to the next chapter where my video really starts. This is very silly. I warn you ahead of time. This is your last chance to get out now. Otherwise, you're going to watch the cheesiest 80s video spoof you've ever seen in your life. Good luck and don't rip me to shreds, okay? Oh, Berkeley Publishing Company, you keep turning down my requests and it makes me feel some kind of way. And now I got to do this. Berkeley, please send me an ARC. Don't make me spend more time in the dark. I just want to read a book for free, but for some reason you won't give it to me. You're the only publisher who's holding out, and it really makes me want to shout. I realize that I'm still pretty small, but you make me feel like I'm 2 inches tall. I just want to read them before they go on sale, but whenever I check my email, you say no, try again later. Not this time. You were so close. Berkeley, you know I'll be true. Actually, you don't, because you have no idea who I am. But that could all change. It's at this point I realized that I never made an intro. So, my name is B, and apparently I've got too much time on my hands. And welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance, and either inspire or terrify the Berkeley Publishing Company. I also feel compelled to let you know that I don't believe that I can sing. This is meant to be a joke and not me showing off my beautiful singing voice. We out. This is one of my favorite types of videos to do, gushing about my top 10 books from the season. Today, we're going to talk about my top 10 books in no particular order that I read in December, January, and February. Let's get started. Okay, I'm going to start with a book I haven't talked about at all on my channel yet. I know, surprise, surprise. He's So Not My Valentine by Savannah Scott. This was my first experience with Savannah Scott, and I enjoyed it so much that I wound up going on her swag section of her website and getting an autographed copy of this because she was running a special deal that'll come with a sticker. So I'm really excited about it. She is a sweet closed door writer, which again is new to me. I haven't really read a whole lot of sweet closed door, but since you guys encouraged me to do a video recently, it sort of intrigued me to all that Sweet Closed Door has to offer. It's set in North Carolina, which is my home state, specifically the small town of Harvest Hollow. Now, this book actually follows some of the characters in the Sweater Weather series, which was a collection of 7 books written last year by some of the queens of sweet contemporary romance. This was Savannah Scott's offering, and the gal from this book, her sister, is the heroine in this book. I enjoyed it so much. We have Heather, who is a single mom trying to get by. She manages a coffee shop, and one day her sister's husband's best friend comes to visit from France, and he is everything you can imagine a Frenchman would be. This book sent me. It highlighted line after line. It was so life-affirming and sweet. It just took me exactly where I wanted to be in terms of swoon, the little touches touches were everything. Renee, our hero, is a quiet, reserved, but everything he does and says is just imbued with so much meaning. I just melted while reading the pages of this. I cannot wait to read more Savannah Scott. She is tremendous. So in January, Amazon partnered with 6 fabulous contemporary writers to create something called The Improbable Meet Cute, which is a collection of 6 short stories written by 6 powerhouses, as I mentioned. And my personal favorite was The Exception to the Rule by Christina Lauren. I actually listened to this on Audible, where our hero accidentally emails our heroine. It's on Valentine's Day, and then for the next 10 years, they email one another on Valentine's Day to check in with their lives. And as they email back and forth through trials in their lives, as you can imagine over the past decade, they grow incredibly fond of one another and then decide by the end that they're going to meet. I can't say too much more because a lot of the fun of this was not knowing what was going to happen, and it just makes me want to read more Christina Lauren. Can I even tell you how much I loved Ready or Not by Cara Bastone? Yes, I can. I'm going to tell you the truth. When I saw Cara Bastone's name on NetGalley, I immediately requested the ARC without even knowing what it was about. And then when I discovered it was about a surprise pregnancy, I was like, oh no, because I don't tend to like surprise pregnancies. I am so thankful that they approved my request before I could go back and say, never mind, because this was one of my favorite books of the entire winter. It's probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year. We have a woman who has a one-night stand, winds up getting pregnant, and then tries to navigate the minefield that is dealing with the father of the child and just understanding what life is going to turn into. Well, she has a best friend, but then we have Shep, who is the brother of her best friend, and he has always been there for her. Well, we kind of get a sense that Shep may have had more feelings for our heroine than we realized. The scenes between the two of them were so riveting. I couldn't stand it. I had a hard time ever stopping reading. And quite frankly, at about 75% into the book, something happens with our cinnamon roll hero that made me audibly sob in the middle of an indoor playground. I actually told Cara Bastone and she's like, yay, that's what I was going for. I mean, sob in the best possible way. This book gave me all the feels. It's all about redeeming qualities in people that aren't perfect and just how beautiful life and love can be. There are times that you maybe don't like some of these characters, but you realize they're just doing the best they can. This was her baby while she was pregnant with 2 of her children. This took her years to write. And it really is, I mean, just about any page. If you turn to a page and read it, you're going to be thoroughly enchanted because the writing is just so good. Every sentence is just so entertaining, truly. And I hope that everybody gets a chance to read it and loves it as much as I do. Okay, now let's talk paranormal romance. We have Switched by Sarah Reddy. Many of you know that I adored the book Ghosted, which is the first book of the Ghosted series, but here we have the second book, and it was just as compelling as the first. I couldn't believe what I was reading. This author takes science and love, physics and poetry, and just seamlessly intertwines them. Not only that, I was laughing out loud so many times. I listened to this and I read it physically. I can't decide which one I liked better because I really liked the female narrator, but the diagrams, the graphs that this main character writes were hilarious, and I really enjoyed looking at them too. We have a woman named Serena. She just wants to be a physicist. She only is out for her career. She's terrified of love and relationships because she's afraid that she would lose herself. One night she ends up in a one-night stand with a gentleman that she's just met, but their chemistry is undeniable. And she realizes that it's like love, like right away. It terrifies her. He's ready to go all in, but she decides, oh, no, I have to cut this off any way I can, and then discovers that they're working together. Oh, goody. They decide to just do the best they can and grumble along until one night in the lab, machinery goes haywire, there's a storm outside, and they switch bodies. They're literally walking in one another's shoes. It was fascinating to read. I really enjoyed the journey. I just love these Sarah Reddy books. In fact, she's coming out with another one this summer called Fated, which is a woman who falls in love with a man that is only in her dreams. Oh my gosh, get out of here. I'm ready to read that one right now. These books are so much fun and so different. I can't recommend them highly enough. Let's talk about another sweet, not spicy romance. This one's by Mimi Matthews. It's a Christmas novella called A Holiday by Gaslight. So many of you were telling me how incredible it was and how I needed to read it. I'm so thankful I read it this past Christmas. It was so proper and buttoned up, but somehow that made the emotional scenes where the two of them let their guards down even more compelling. I loved the way that he started to interact with her once he realized that she might have feelings for him. Let me back up. I'm sorry. They are supposed to be married. It's a marriage of convenience. She realizes he couldn't care less about her, or could he? In any case, that's the impression that she's gotten. So she releases him from their contract. Well, he is not pleased with this. So now that they know that it could never work out, all the pretenses that they put up in the beginning, they're brushed aside. And now we're getting real with one another. And what happens when they do? The way he comes to her aid, the gentleman that he is, he was delicious. Delicious. And I loved watching the two of them together. Yes, this was sweet, not spicy. I couldn't have swooned harder. I teared up. It was so good. If you haven't read this yet, please put this on your TBR for December. It's so good. It was atmospheric. I loved the English countryside and how they decorated for the holidays. It was so fun. It was one of my favorite reads of winter. Of course, that's why it's in this video. Let's move on. You guys know I'm a huge Kate Bateman fan, and I had already given Second Dukes the Charm 5 stars before she even agreed to be in my video. Was that not an epic acceptance speech, by the way, for the fake awards show? I'll leave that linked above in case you're interested. Oh my gosh, she did such an incredible job. I adore her, and this book is no exception. We have a woman named Tess. She's a widow. She wants to get out there, but she needs to protect her anonymity. So she goes to a house party where everyone's wearing a mask except for the gentleman that she finds herself interested in. Well, the two of them have a very scandalous tryst up against a door. It's hard for her to forget him, especially later on when the two of them bump into one another again and they discover who each other actually is. Oh, there's twists and turns. There's plenty of spice. There's danger, and it's all kinds of fun. This is the first book in a brand new series by Kate Bateman called Her Majesty's Rebels, where the women work for the Queen to solve crimes. It's so much fun. It adds such a cool angle. I cannot wait for the next book in the series. This one was just released at the end of December, so I don't think the next one has been scheduled yet, but you better believe I'm gonna be first in line to read it. Guess what? Literally today, as I'm editing this video, I got an email from Kate Bateman. Well, it's the newsletter that just announced today that the next book in the series, How to Fall for a Scoundrel, is coming August 20th. I can't wait. I am so excited to talk about this book, Time to Shine, which was one of my top 10 of the winter, of course. But the other reason I'm excited to talk about it is because we found out who gifted me this book from my wish list, and it was Linda. Linda, thank you so much for this book. I am so excited. You have no idea what a perfect gift for me it was. When it arrived in the mail, I had no idea it was coming. You're wonderful. Thank you so much for the gift. And I'm so thankful you told me in the comments that it was you so that I could publicly acknowledge your generosity and your kindness, because you made my day and then some. This is Time to Shine. This is an MM hockey romance. If you couldn't tell that from looking at the cover, we have Landon and Casey. Landon is a big time introvert and Casey is a big time extrovert, like an extrovert. And the two of them fall for one another during hockey season. Both of them have some hangups, mainly Landon, but Casey really helps Landon discover who he truly is. This book is so beautiful in terms of just meeting someone where they're at, appreciating who they are, and just loving them into a more full version of themselves entirely. I adore this. Casey is so sweet and so like a puppy dog. It's a really spicy book though, so to go into that understanding it, but I just had so much fun. And Landon too, like when you see him come into his own and just be the beautiful person that he is too, just like Casey. I mean, it's just wonderful. Many of you recommended this book to me and said it's one of your favorite hockey romances, and now I see why. Another historical romance that blew me away this past year, Never Blow a Kiss by Lizzy. This is her debut novel, and it was exceptional. exceptional. Not only do we have narration from the man and the woman's perspective, we even get to hear from some other people that may not even be good characters, but it was really riveting to see this book from other points of view. There were so many layers going on because our guy is a former soldier turned detective. Our woman is a governess supposedly, but she's actually a spy. This is a great time to tell you that this is the first book of the Secret Society of Governess Spies series, which promises to be tremendous. And I can't wait to read the next one. Again, because this one was just published, we're not going to probably see the next one for a little while, but that's okay. I am beyond excited to read more by this author. We have a hero who is suffering. He just came into money. He's not thrilled about it because of course all the women are throwing their daughters at him. And one night he is at a ball when he's just standing there desperate to get out of these conversations, and our heroine sees him, thinks it's hilarious, and decides to blow him a kiss. She's supposed to be doing something secretive. She's not supposed to be getting the attention of people. She doesn't always make the best choices, but she really tries, and her street smart skills do help her. Not always as a spy. Anyway, she's adorable and hilarious, and he loves to pursue her. I loved this book. I loved the twists and turns. There were a lot of layers. I know I've mentioned this already, but it bears repeating. So many layers to this onion of a book, and it didn't bog it down. It didn't feel bloated. It wasn't confusing, and I do get confused if there's too much going on. You guys know this about me. It's my season of life. I have a million interruptions. I could follow this very well. It was very well written, and I cannot wait to read more by this author. I've said that already. Let's move on. This past December, I finally got a chance to read B.K. Borson and completely fell in love with Love Life Farms. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to read the rest of this series. Business Casual is the last book in this series, which is a fall book. It's coming out in June. I'm planning on reading all of these in the season that they were intended. I just love that about it, by the way. Oh my gosh. But let's talk more about Love Life Farms. I became completely obsessed with the love in this book. The slow burn was so delicious. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. In fact, B.K. Borson uses a song called Ceilings by Lizzy McAlpine, or however you say her name. I'll link it below. I know I've already talked about this, but it's just the perfect song that goes with this book. The video, by the way, is scrumptious. I loved it so much. We have some fake dating that happens here between two friends where it's always been you. Oh my gosh, it's so good. But she needs to pull off this idea that the two of them started this Christmas tree farm together in order to sell it. She's hoping to really help her business, which has been struggling secretly. And he agrees to help her. And as they go along with this fake dating, you just realize how deep the feelings are. She doesn't really realize it, but he sure does. And the way he reels her in, it's so good. If you like slow burn, if you like It's Always Been You, if you like spicy scenes that are emotional and really well written, you're gonna love this. I'm a huge B.K. Borson fan now. Am I obsessed with S.E. Wendell? No. Yes! And I need to talk about another one of her books. So this was one of my favorites of the winter. In fact, it's so perfect for winter because it's set up in the mountains. In a decrepit castle, it's falling apart. There's snow all over the ground. S.E. Wendell writes atmospheric like nobody else. I adored this book. It's the perfect book for winter. But any time of year, I will say, don't wait until next winter to read it if you have an inkling that you'd like to. I am currently reading the second book in this Broken Wings duet, which is called Haven. Let's talk about this one. We have Lena. She is a knight, and she is tasked with guarding our prisoner, Belle. He is a prince. He's an avian, which means he's basically a human, but he's larger and he has bird-like wings. The two of them hate each other, of course. He's used to being mistreated by all the wardens of this jail. And the avians and the humans have been battling it out for years. However, as they spend time alone together, up in the mountains, up in the woods, in the snow, they start to recognize in each other the beautiful hearts that they have. Does that make sense? There's a reason I'm not a writer. S.E. Wendell does a much better job than I could, but I sobbed at certain parts of this. I know some of you who have started reading these have been messaging me about how much you enjoy them. Belle is what probably S.E. Wendell would consider a broody hero. He's sort of standoffish at first, but once you start to get inside those soft ooey gooey layers, it's just yummy, yummy. And I love a strong heroine. They also have other characters who I absolutely fell in love with. And I just can't wait to read even more by S.C. Wendell in the future, as I'm sure you figured out by now. That was You're a No Good Dirty Rake by Lisa Kleypas. You're listening to Smooth Jazz Historical Romance with your host, B. Hi, my name's B. Welcome to my channel. Mama needs to read romance and hopefully not completely lose her voice. Bear with me. Hello and welcome to my top 10 books of spring. I am so sorry for my voice. Some people say they prefer it this way. I don't know why. But anyway, what a time to lose my voice with all the lives coming up, with all the filming I'm hoping to do, and now I'm losing my voice. I feel great, especially because we are talking about 10 books that were absolutely my favorites in March, April, and May. You can see more in my wrap-ups for each of those months. Of course, May I haven't made yet, but when I do, I will link it to this video. I'm going to make sure not to just repeat myself as I talk about these 10 perfect books in no particular order. You're going to see a little bit of everything. Let's do it. I gotta start with one of my 6 stars, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I adored this book. We have a cinnamon roll hero, which you may know is my absolute favorite, Justin. He and Emma meet online. They both believe that they're cursed. People they date wind up always moving on directly to the loves of their lives, so they feel like they're cursed. They decide to date each other and see if maybe after they break up, they'll meet the love of their lives. But Justin is all in as soon as he really gets to know Emma. Emma's more hesitant, which gives us a lot of him pursuing her vibes. It's so much fun. The caretaking is exceptional. One of my favorite scenes in this book includes him coming to rescue her while steering a floaty across a lake. There we go again. My husband is making a smoothie. Again. We're going to attempt to ignore that as we move on to How to Love. Okay, I can't ignore it. One moment. Okay, it's never going to end. It's never going to end. So we're going to move on to another book that I loved. It's a historical romance called How to Love a Dangerous Rogue by Scarlett Scott. It's over. Okay, let's move on. Anyone who hasn't seen my videos before, we have an issue with smoothie making in our house, and it's my husband's fault. Anyway, How to Love a Dangerous Rogue by Scarlett Scott. This was my very first Scarlett Scott. I gave it 5 stars. At the time, I decided she had to be up there with Tessa Dare and Lisa Kleypas as one of my top historical romance authors of all time. We are treated to gorgeous love scenes. Okay, you know what? We're treated to gorgeous love scenes. They're emotional, and he shows his deep adoration for her through the love scenes. It's my absolute favorite kind of love scenes. He's a king. She's the lady in waiting to the princess he's supposed to be marrying. Their need for one another is so intense. The slow burn was so yummy, delicious. It was amazing. And how can they withstand the hold that they have on one another? They really do try, but it's just breathtaking. It's breathtaking. If you want an angsty, exciting, tension-filled, beautiful, spicy romance, oh my gosh, this one's got you covered. You know how much I love S.E. Wendell, fantasy romance author. She is just perfection. I adore her writing, and this book, Stone Hearts, the first book in the War of the Underhill, is no exception. This was fantastic, and I mean that in the most literal way. We actually have a Fae who's underground. He's in the Underhill. It's like another dimension, essentially, which Wendell writes beautifully. He falls in love with this woman who is a gargoyle, but she's not perfectly made, which made it even more compelling. She's not accepted by other gargoyles, but she is accepted and loved and appreciated by him. They communicate and interact through a well because she is topside, if you will, on Earth, and they can communicate through this well because they are fated mates. He and his people are cursed after a terrible war. Unfortunately, all the rest of the gargoyles one day are turned to stone. Think the gargoyles we know today. And these two go on a quest to try to recover all of Karis, our heroine's family and friends who have been turned to stone. We span hundreds and hundreds of years, stopping in really interesting time periods that Wendell herself, in an interview that we got to sit down with almost 3 hours. It was lovely. I highly recommend if you haven't seen it yet. We talked so much history, art, writing, you name it. We covered it. As they move through time together, their bond grows. They grow as people. We're treated to into so many unique settings. It was just beautiful, and I loved the way that they loved each other. So a spicy fantasy romance. Moving from spicy to sweet, one of the sweet romantic authors that I'm super obsessed with, aside from Soraya Wilson, lately it's been Savannah Scott. I have been binging her backlist and enjoying every moment of it. I actually ordered this one that's coming soon. Are We There Yet? It's book 1 in what is often known as the Love Trippin' series, if you're looking for it. She's renaming it the Marbella Island series because it takes place primarily in Marbella Island. But in this book, we are treated to a road trip for best of friends since childhood, go from rural Ohio to Marbella Island off the coast of California together during one summer. I felt like I was on vacation with them. It's 2 girls and 2 guys on this road trip, and our heroine, Riley, is madly in love with Cam, but Cam is Riley's best friend's brother, unfortunately. Cam hasn't ever really looked at Riley as anything other than a little sister, but as the road trip progresses, he starts to see her in a new, more grown-up light, and from there, we are treated to some fabulous slow burn tension yumminess. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Savannah Scott can bring the tension without the spice. You don't even need it. You don't even need it. And you don't feel like you're missing out at all. I can't wait to read the rest of the Marbella or Love Trippin' series, however you might know it. Let's talk about one of the best Ruby Dixons I've read in a long time. Alien romance, Penny's Protector, which is Ice Home book 9. I've read, as you could have guessed from doing math, I've read 8 books so far in the Ice Home series, and they've all been good or fine. But this one was exceptional. We have Penny, who on Earth was not respected by guys. She was just hoping for attention from them. She had really low self-esteem, in part because she was plus size, and she really felt badly about the way that she was treated, but she felt like that was all that she could get. Well, now we are on Not Hoth, aka Ice Home, and the rules have changed, and I'm so very glad. We have Sabren, who is one of the Tallhorn clan of aliens. If you're not an alien romance person, you're like, what is happening? He adores her and he protects her. He's so quiet. He's so sweet. He may not be the sharpest knife in the drawer. He always listens to his brother, and his brother has the idea that they're both going to kidnap the women that they love in hopes that the women that they love will then fall in love with them. So Sabren goes along with it, but it's so cute. Like there's even a scene where Sabren's brother says, we're going to give them tea, which is a kind of tea that's going to make the girls fall asleep. Well, Sabren goes, so they'll be drinking tea, so their mouths will be full with tea, so they won't be able to cry out when we carry them away. And he's like, no. But it's that kind of sweet heart that Sabren is, where you're just like, oh my. He's got the best of intentions, but he doesn't really think things through. Like, maybe we shouldn't kidnap people. Later on, he's like, oh, whoops. I love the way Sabren loves and protects Penny. Their relationship was so cute and spicy. Many people I know Ice Home is not for them, but if you want to try one, I highly recommend this one. What top 10 of spring would be complete without mentioning the last book in the Bergman Brothers series by Chloe Leese, book 7, Only and Forever, in which we find Vigo, the man with more love in his heart than anyone else probably in the entire series. He even reads romance novels, as well as Lula, or Tallulah, who doesn't even believe in love. Can you believe it? These two are forced together. They're roommates who try to help one another out. But this book just stuck with me. The thing that sticks with me now after having read this book over a month ago is just scene after scene of compassion, of empathy. Lula has type 1 diabetes. The way that Vigo is there for her is so beautiful. I loved seeing all of these couples ridiculously happy, and it was just the perfect send-off for this beautiful, beautiful family that's all about acceptance and appreciation and knowing that you're worthy of love regardless of what you have going on. Can't tell you, oh, I'm getting emotional, can't tell you how much this series has meant to me as a mom with kids with special needs, and my mother has rheumatoid arthritis. I just can't thank her enough. I'm so thankful that I got to meet her at the ApollyCon Festival, because this series was actually healing for me, and it added to my life. So anyway, we don't want to watch me cry about books, so we're gonna move on. I'm amazed that I can find all of the books in the Rokesby series, which is the prequel series to the Bridgerton series, which I've read all of this year and enjoyed immensely. I've been going through everything for my summer of stepbacks and everything's all jumbled up. I still had these in order, thank heaven, so I could show these all to you today. One of my top books was the 4th and final book in the Rokesby series, First Comes Scandal. It's a childhood friends to lovers that was absolute perfection. I love the way that our hero comes to our heroine's aid. first begrudgingly, but then as they get to work together, he becomes so impressed by her, and the way that he always values her opinion, especially in this day and age, was so refreshing. These are two virgins as well, so they embark on their love affair, not really knowing anything and just sort of feeling things out. You really see the deep friendship bond and the deep love come out in these gorgeous, gorgeous love scenes. This was also one of the funniest historical romances that I've read in ages. If you're looking for just a great, sweet, comical read that is going to make you stand up and cheer at the end, I highly recommend this. And you don't have to read all of these. I know you're gonna ask me. They're more fun if you read the entire series, but this could also be a standalone. It was exceptional. Can't wait to read all the rest of the Bridgertons now. If you haven't heard of the Bridgerton series, no, I'm just kidding. Another one of my favorite contemporary reads of the spring was The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I miss this couple. I don't know what it is. There's something so real about Sarah Adams's couples. Her books are more medium spice, but in this one it was a little spicier and I thought it was beautifully done. We have lovers to enemies to lovers again in this book. They were so passionate in college, but then she breaks it off without telling him why. He hates her guts. She's tried to move on. Now he's a famous football player in need of an agent. Guess who the agent is? You'll never guess. It's her. He tries to make her life miserable, which is actually pretty hilarious. But then very quickly you see that they still care for one another. And then they wind up, oh no, going to Cancun together for a business type deal that turns into much, much more. I love the feminist undertones throughout this book. We know that from the beginning, Sarah Adams actually dedicates this to her daughters. And we see themes of being a strong woman and being yourself throughout, which I just adored. If you like romance on the sweeter side and you want a good beach read, this one's set a lot of the time at the beach, so highly recommend. It's impossible to list my favorite thing about being a booktuber. There's so many things. I mean, how much time have you got? Pretty much every single aspect of it is fabulous. And one of the perks of being a booktuber is people will reach out to you and offer to give you books so that you can read and review them, which is so much fun. Lately, I've actually had to be kind of saying no because there have been so many people coming out and it's a happy problem to have, I think. And I've got to learn probably to say no a little more, but live and learn, right? Anyway, this was one I'm so thankful I said yes to. Katrina Kendrick's Private Arrangements series. There's another book in the series that will be coming at some point. They've assured me. They sent me book 2 first, so that's what I read. And then I just got these, but I cannot wait to read them. This is book 1 and 3. Of course, nothing's in order. Why would it be in order? This is so good. I gave it 5 stars. But we have Alex. Her father hates her, and he wants to ruin her, basically. So what he's done is he has found one of the worst guys in London and said, I will pay you to pretend to be an upstanding gentleman to woo my daughter. If you can get her to marry you, I will give you her entire dowry. Nick needs the money enough that he says yes, but then quickly falls for Alex. We're treated to 2 timelines in this book. When they're meeting and falling in love, while she thinks that he is an aristocrat, and then present day, which is when her life is actually in danger. So he needs to take her in, and they sort of sort through their feelings while there is some pretty intense danger and excitement going on. This book had it all. It was exceptional, and I can't wait to read more by her. So you're going to be hearing more soon. I'm going to be reading at least these 2 this summer, hopefully the 4th one if they send it to me. So yes, again, talking about the perks of BookTube, I actually got to do a giveaway with the Ministry of Time. This book was really good, really heavy though. This is not a romance. It does have a lot of romance. It has spice. The love story is woven throughout, but we have a woman who, this is in a little bit future London, and things are really not going well at all. So they've decided to pluck people from various time periods to complete a mysterious mission. And one of our present day Londoners winds up falling for a man from 1847. The writing is gorgeous. The slow burn is intense. You come to really care about all of these characters, but you're constantly, at least in my mind, you're sort of feeling like you're at a distance. You can't know them as well as you want to. The twists and turns of this plot were insane. Throughout the book, we get to see our hero Graham Gore in 1847 before they pluck him from his time period and to see the dire straits that he was in. It was weeks later. I have Graham Gore under my skin. I can't stop thinking about him. I can't stop thinking about this book. And my last one, which is book 10. I don't know what you mean by 11. It's 10. Don't try to count these. Just trust me. It's 10. Elizabeth Hoyt's Dearest Rogue. This is book 8 of the Maiden Lane series. It's a bodyguard romance. Enough said. We have Phoebe, who is blind, and she desperately needs a bodyguard because there are people that are trying to kidnap her. And James, he's injured. He used to be the head of the police, essentially. We'll just call it that to make life easy. He is doing his utmost not to be in love with her, but as danger gets cranked up to level 10, and he's the only one who can save her, the emotions get high. And of course, they turn into passion between the two of them. It was so yummy. It was so exciting. It was so beautiful. It was so spicy. It was also probably one of the last books of the Maiden Lane series that I really, really loved. So, yeah, they're hit or miss for me. Well, those were my 10 books. Don't count them. It's 10. It's not 11. I don't know why you think it's 11. Hi guys, it's B. Welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance, and this is step back number... Boss, that's over. What? There's no more step back summer. What do you mean? It's fall now, or autumn, for some of yous guys. It is? We're moving on. Already? How about I tell everybody what my 10 top books of summer were? I'll allow it. Okay, great. So join me, won't you, for not step backs. I can't wait to tell you all about my 10 favorite books of summer 2024. If we must, we must. Let's start with one of my favorite authors, Catherine Center, who published this summer a fantastic book called The Rom-Commers. I got the audio arc of this book from Macmillan Audio. The way that she dramatized the story made it even funnier than it was. This is, of course, a rom-com. There is drama too, though. Our heroine, Emma, is taking care of her father, who has a lot of mobility issues. She's dealing with trauma, as well as our hero, Charlie. They're both screenwriters, and she gets the opportunity to help him with a terrible script. She's idolized him forever. Unfortunately, though, he's a big-time curmudgeon and he does not want her around. They unfortunately still get thrust together, but they realize that they recognize some of the same pain in each other, which makes for quite the relationship on the page and off. I found this a fascinating way to learn more about writers and their culture, and how the overarching theme is how the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves can really shape our lives and our relationships. I adored the selflessness, the meditations on love, and the grand gestures. And most favorite of all, this made me think differently about my own life, which I loved. And if you read this one, tell me what you thought. The next book I want to talk about is an historical romance by Kate Bateman. This is book 2 of Her Majesty's Rebels series, which focuses on 3 women who take cases that maybe nobody else would. They're strong, courageous, intelligent, and they get themselves into some messes. I had just as much fun with this book as I did the very first book in the series. And let me tell you, our hero in this one is downright yummy. He is a scoundrel, which normally I don't necessarily go for, but Kate Bateman had me falling so hard for him. It really was a lesson in how to fall for a scoundrel. The title was perfect. So Eleanor Law is our heroine. She is one of Her Majesty's rebels, and she's going to take a case and is aided by someone with kind of a mysterious past, or a hidden identity, as we love that trope, right? We've got some insta-lust happening here, which again, I don't tend to go for, but Kate Bateman writes it so well. There's mystery, there's danger, there's dimples galore. What more can you ask for? I was on the edge of my seat. I love the plot twist. I love the tension of the plot, and especially that between our characters. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun with this. Here comes something that's going to be one of my favorite reads of the entire year. This is Fated by Sarah Reddy. This is book 3 of the Ghosted series. I have adored each of the books that have been published so far in the series. I also have the arc for the 4th book coming out in October. I can't wait to read it. I just haven't had time yet. And this one is my favorite of the 3 that I've read so far. We have Fiona. She is a workaholic living in Switzerland, and she has decided that love is not in the cards for her. But one day she winds up with a watch that if she holds it while she falls asleep, she dreams of her perfect man. She decides while she's in dreams to just throw caution to the wind and allow herself to feel the love that she would never allow herself to feel in real life. But the problem with dreams is that they end. Or do they? I can't say a whole lot more. If this sounds even remotely interesting to you, please read this book. Sarah Reddy's writing is so fantastic. I also have read many books that give you a beach vibe. I realize now we're heading into fall, but maybe put it on your TBR for next summer if you really like to read seasonally, because this gave me those summer vibes and then some. A lot of this book is set at the beach, and it was just heavenly. I felt like I went to the beach, which I didn't actually do this summer, but I did in this book, so that was fun. There were parts that made me gasp. The love is just just so strong. This was beyond exceptional. I love this author and can't wait to see what the next book brings. Oh, it's gonna be so good. Here's one that just came out of absolutely nowhere. I saw this on NetGalley, got the audio arc. This is called The Golden Goal by Anna Conwell. She's a sweet, clean romance writer. I'd never read her before, but I love hockey romance. I'd never read a sweet hockey romance, so I thought, oh my gosh, I need to try this. This, by the way, is book 1 of the More Than a Game series. I also read The Perfect Putt, which is book 2. It wasn't quite as good. It was still good, so if you're interested in sweet sports romances, then I highly recommend this author, especially this book. We have Shaw Daniels, who is our hockey player, who happens to be enemies with Sutton. They were childhood enemies, but now she happens to be the physical therapist for his hockey team. I loved our hero Shaw so very much. He carries a torch for Sutton. It's one of those he falls first. He's secretly crushing on her forever, and I adored that. Sutton's kind of hard-nosed, but Shaw is the yummiest, most delicious cinnamon roll hero. I ate him up every single page. I loved the caretaking. I still felt this book was steamy despite the fact that it's absolutely clean, sweet romance. I love when they can do that. That's what the good writers can do. You know you've got a good romance writer when they can bring the chemistry without bringing actual spice. And it's riveting and compelling. I love it. I really enjoyed the dual narrators on this as well, although I just talked to one of you guys the other day who said you didn't love the male narrator. I did, but I can understand. The gal definitely does an exceptional job. Let me know if you read it and if you enjoy it. My gosh, I love this book so much. Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. If you read and enjoyed Forget Me Not, which, oh my gosh, I was so gone for that one. When I saw this arc, I immediately requested it, and I'm so thankful that they granted it to me because I ate this up. I read it on my Kindle over just a couple of days. I couldn't put it down. This is actually based on Rilo, I think it's called, fan fiction. I don't really follow Star Wars, but for those of you that do, my assumption is you're going to go insane over this couple who is based on Kylo Ren, I think is his name, and the gal's name, who I don't know. Except it's set at the Manhattan Pops, which is an orchestra set in New York City. We have a woman who has tried her whole life to become first chair of the Manhattan Pops, and she finally gets there, only to discover that sitting across from her on that stage is her arch nemesis, Xander Thorne. He's dark, he's broody, he's ridiculously handsome. We get so much spice. Some of the scenes, though I know nothing about music, I still found myself absolutely riveted and not at all lost by the incredible world that Julie Soto creates of intensity. I really got a feel for what it was like to be in an orchestra, what the music does to our characters, how it can be quite the aphrodisiac, I'll say that. It was really intense in the best way and in every kind of way. I enjoyed this so very much. If this seems like your cup of tea at all, read it. You will not be sorry. I am so thankful that Owl City Press reached out to me about Taken by His Sword by Florence A. Bliss. You guys know I've had her on multiple times. I adore this woman. She's fantastic. She's got a great personality and she is a fantastic writer. This is her debut novel. Get ready to get swept away to 17th century France. We've got a handsome, hot-blooded Frenchman who goes on a road trip with our heroine who is a guide. Alex is a fierce woman who can hold her own. She knows how to fight with a sword. Unfortunately, the other thing she's been fighting is a crush on Philippe, who she's been crushing on since she was a girl. But now, you know, many years later, the two of them are forced together and she's decided she's over it, but maybe he's not ready for her to be over it. He's got some growing to do. Again, the book had it all. It was spicy. It was exciting. There was a really compelling mystery I wasn't sure of the answer to. I loved those twists. And I love how similarly in the book I just mentioned, Not Another Love Song, music was sort of foreplay. Well, in this book, fighting is foreplay, which was also ridiculously fun. I love a strong heroine. I love a worshiping hero. We get both of those things in spades in this book. And she writes these emotional love scenes, which is, as you guys know, my catnip. And I can't wait for the next book in the Swords of Chivalry series. You guys know I can't pronounce French. I know she helped me earlier. I still don't know. I can't do it. I'm so sorry. If you followed me at all, you know that I read Ironling in August. I enjoyed it so much. This is book 2 of the Monstrous World series. I actually just had Essie Wendell on my channel the other day, which was so much fun. We talked all about this book as well as other books to come in the series. We get Auric and Sorcha from the first book, Halfling, which is, I gave 6 stars to. We get copious amounts of those cameos, as well as a new couple to fall hard for, Hakon, who is like the most dreamy half-orc you're ever going to find, and Ashley, our heroine, who is neurodivergent and feeling out how to cope with her sensory and emotional cognitive differences while also trying to learn to be the leader of this castle. Hakon is the blacksmith, and the two of them, despite the fact that they are from very different worlds, begin falling for each other. It is extremely spicy, and I loved most of it, but it was a bit much for me, but you guys know how I am. I get through. I loved the world building. As someone who can mostly handle low fantasy, I was proud that I was able to figure out what was going on in this high fantasy book. I also am not super into monster romance, but I mean, I read alien romance, so it's very similar. I did find this to be fantastic. He's not all that different. He's got teeny tusks and green skin, and he's large, but essentially those are the only differences. If you're wary of monster romance, I wouldn't let that impede you from reading this book. I think that this one and Halfling both have a lot to offer about what it means to be strong, what it means to grow, how to have compassion for others who may seem like villains. I love how our heroes are such cinnamon rolls. They have such reverence for their mates. It's just fantastic. I can't wait to see Essie Wendell write more in the future, and I'm already looking forward to Sweetling, which is coming out in November. And many of you asked during the live show as well, we anticipate that the audiobook for Ironling will come out by the end of the year. I am so thankful that Tara of Tara Talks Books approached me and asked if I wanted to start a book club with her. And I said yes. And I didn't even know what it was about. I just love hanging out with Tara so much. And then she said, let's do historical romance. And I said yes. And then it's built and built and built from there. It's this fabulous book club where you guys actually get to submit books for the club, which we will then vote on. I love that there's so much of a community aspect to this. This book, Her Ruthless Duke, this was our first book club book. So of course it's near and dear to my heart. It's the first book of the Rogues Guild series, and it focuses on Virtue, our heroine, and Trevor, our hero. He is a former spy who may still have some enemies, and not only is he fighting them, he's also fighting his very real attraction to his ward, who is 10 years his junior. He tries so hard to fend her off, but it just doesn't work. There is so much chemistry, so much slow burn, although I don't know how slow it is. Maybe it's medium burn, but it's spicy. It's good. I really appreciate it. Again, we got a lot of spice, but it was emotionally deep and moved the plot along, so I was all for it. I found this book so compelling. I could have done with a little more action and a little more of the villain, but still, I had a fabulous time with how our hero especially grows and discovers just how amazing our heroine is. As I said, I love a strong lady. I need to read more of this series. I know some of you already have and that you've enjoyed it very much. Do let me know in the comments if you've read any more in the series and what you thought. So there's a series of books written by different contemporary romance authors called Meant to Be, and each of the books is based on a different Disney fairy tale. Well, I got my hands on Christina Lauren's arc for Tangled Up in You, which is based on, you guessed it, Tangled. It just came out this past summer, and I really enjoyed how it was very closely tied to Tangled. As someone who has a 4-year-old daughter and who has watched the movie Tangled about 1 million times, getting to see it in a more adult perspective was fun. And when I say adult, I don't just mean that there's spice, which there is, but I also really appreciated the real world challenges that were faced by our heroine, who has lived most of her life on a compound. That was how Christina Lauren was able to take this and make it more true to life. Rather than being in a tower, she's in a compound, kind of off the grid with her parents, and they allow her finally to go to college, where she meets our hero, who is like the Flynn Rider of our book. They wind up going on a road trip together. You know how I love my road trips. And he discovers that she's not just some squeaky clean heroine who's obnoxious, but in fact is maybe deeper than he believes. And the growth that happens for him, the way that he finally lets her in and stops being this curmudgeonly grumpity grump, was so much fun. And what a great payoff at the end. It was fascinating. I couldn't wait to see what Christina Lauren was going to do do with this story, and I highly recommend it. And last but not least, I read Bridgerton Book 3, An Offer from a Gentleman, which many of you have mentioned is one of your favorites, if not your favorite, Bridgerton. I've only gotten up to book 4 so far. Colin's story. Everybody loves Colin, with good reason. That was interesting. Notice that's not in my top 10. But yes, An Offer from a Gentleman is certainly the one that I've enjoyed so much of the 4 Bridgerton books that I've read so far. This is based on a Cinderella story. Though I didn't always love Benedict Bridgerton and some of his choices, I really found our heroine, Sophie, to be extremely compelling. The things that she overcomes to find her happily ever after, to achieve a found family with the Bridgertons. I found that to be so incredibly sweet. In fact, if you're a Bridgerton expert, which as you know, I've only read the first 4, so maybe I'm not, I feel like you could read book 3 and enjoy it without reading books 1 and 2 of the series. Sometimes I wish that that's what I had done. Time to uncover my favorite fall reads. Hey, it's Bea. Welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance, and gush about the books I've read the last 3 months. Welcome to one of my favorite videos to film all year. It's that time where I get to gush about my favorite reads for the past 3 months, September, October, and November, in no particular order. Let's start with an arc I just finished the other day. It's coming out January 7th, 2025, book 3 of the When in Rome series, Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. This book made me feel like I was back in the small town of Rome, Kentucky, where this series is set. Now we're focused on Walker's sister, Emily, and her love story. She has an arch nemesis since college, and they've wound up teaching together. He left and she thought she was free of him forever, but now he's back in town and he's her neighbor. This enemies to lovers was just perfection. The banter was A+. I loved how both of them were able to peel off the layers of their vulnerability with each other. It felt so real. These characters are so richly developed. I don't know how Sarah Adams does it. After I closed the pages of this book, I actually missed the characters afterwards. There's an element of this that deals with how they're writers, and there's a scene where he helps her block a love scene that was one of my favorite scenes I think I've read in any book all year. And I love how she peppered her story with emails and text messages that went back in time about 15 years to the beginning of their relationship, where they just hated each other. It was really, really good. One of the best enemies to lovers I've ever read. Now, Sarah Adams, initially when she wrote, she was a closed door author. She's now open door, but it's still very lightly spiced, if you can say it like that. She begins her book telling readers which chapters to avoid if they'd rather not get that open door experience. I'm already chomping at the bit for book 4, but it's the final book in the series, which means it'll be over. Here's another one I gave 6 stars to. This is The Co-op by Tara DeWitt. I'd never read her before, and I grabbed the arc because I was fascinated. Everybody talks about how great she is. This is actually a rewrite of a book she released many years ago. I was listening to the original audio while reading the physical arc, and then I realized very quickly that this is completely different. If you've read this book before and you think you know it, you don't. It's done so much better than it was originally. This is dual timeline, which was done exceptionally. We get to really experience these characters' journeys, and while our heroine is very hard-nosed and closed off in the beginning, the character development and the growth really made this ending top-notch. I felt like I went on a journey with these characters. They start off as friends who then become friends with benefits. It's very difficult for either of them to share their feelings, and when one of them reaches out, the other one shuts the door. They haven't communicated in many years, but now they're forced together because they're now co-owners of their grandmother's former home. They need to completely gut the place and fix it up if they're going to be able to sell it. They're in such a financial bind that they have to live together in the house while they're redoing it. And it makes for all kinds of awkward and ridiculously intense scenes. I could not stop turning pages, and every time I had to stop reading, I just wanted to go back for more. This book is set at the beach as well, so if you like a little bit of a beach vibe, it's definitely for you. But I just found this book to be absolutely exceptional, and it's made me want to make Tara DeWitt an auto-buy author, despite the fact that I've never read any of her other things, but I know I need to. One of my favorite historical romance reads was To Steal a Heart by Kate Bateman. This was actually published as Casey Bateman. It's one of her independent books. I found it to be incredible. We have a hero who's a spy who needs the help of a tightrope walker to do some of the things that he can't do. She decides to take up a bargain with him despite the fact that she hates his guts. This is primarily set around the time of the Napoleon Napoleonic Wars. The settings of this were exceptional. We get to spend quite a bit of time at a dilapidated French countryside estate that used to be a vineyard, where he trains her and gets her up to speed so that she can go on this mission with him. Oh my gosh, the training scenes were exceptional. He is more of a kind of like an alpha male, where he's tough on the outside but sweet on the inside. A little tougher than I generally like in my heroes, but Kate Bateman really makes it work. The way these two get to respect and trust one another, and then the feelings come later. Oh, I just thought it was great. There's so much intensity, so much excitement. I loved the missions. I loved the spice. I felt like I was watching a movie. It was so much fun. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know that I'm obsessed with Sarah Reddy and her Ghosted series. While the book Wished came out this past fall, it's the last one in the Ghosted series. It did not disappoint. I enjoyed this so very much. We have a woman who cleans houses for a living. She has fallen in love with the man whose mansion she cleans, and she comes across a necklace and makes a wish, and she wishes that maybe she could just be married to him to see what it would be like. Oh, she gets her wish, and it is crazy what follows. This was the spiciest book of the series, and Sarah Reddy does an exceptional job with that. I love not knowing what was going to happen. There's not a whole lot more I can say because I think half the fun is exploring this yourself, but if this sounds even remotely interesting to you, definitely give it a try. I love Lindsay Lovis's historical romance books, but here is a paranormal one that she tried her hand at and did an incredible job with. This is Perfectly Wicked, which is set in a Maine apple orchard owned by a family of witches. There was magic, there was mystery, there were actual ghosts, unlike a lot of the books I read this fall that I thought would have ghosts in them. One day we have a gentleman who has his own show about hauntings, and he gets wind of this orchard and some interesting events that have been happening there. So he wants to film several episodes. Of course, our heroine is very concerned about what he'll actually find, but she needs some of his money. So she decides to help him, but only so much. This is one where he's falling for her immediately, but she's more reluctant. Again, the slow burn was great, and there's a scene with painting that is chef's kiss. Can't say more than that. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. Fingers crossed that there's more books in the series because I want her sisters to also find their happily ever afters. I just love B.K. Borison, and her last book of her Love Light series was published back in July, but I waited until this fall to read it because I wanted those fall feels, and she certainly delivered. This book was just so much fun to read. Unfortunately now, of course, the Love Light series is over, but we get to follow Charlie and Nova as they finally come together and allow themselves to experience the idea that they're both worthy of love when maybe they weren't feeling that way. She's a tattoo artist trying to get her tattoo shop off the ground, but she's got some self-esteem issues that are making it hard. She also doesn't really believe in romantic relationships. Then we have Charlie, who's been pining for Nova for many years, always feeling like he's not worthy unless he's performing acts of service, and he decides to help Stella and Luca. That's right, Stella and Luca from Love Light Farms. They're finally going on their honeymoon, and he has agreed to help them by taking care of the farm. And of course, this means he's going to be in close proximity to Nova, who's afraid of her feelings for him. This was, again, by far the spiciest book in the series, but I was here for it. Can't wait to read more B.K. Borison in the future. Let's talk about the best pirate book I've ever read. It's No Rest for the Wicked by Lauren Smith. This was our Tea and Biscuits with Tara and B book club pick for the month of September. This had more piratey peril than you can shake a scabbard at. And I actually cried during the climax of the scene. I loved how two people that weren't even fond of one another in the beginning wind up risking it all to save each other. I also love a fierce heroine, and Lauren Smith delivers that in spades. Dominic initially seems like a terrible pirate, but really we learn that he's so much more. Lauren Smith does an excellent job creating a richly developed pirate character and taking him in our eyes from this vile villain to an incredible hero. I was really impressed. He actually winds up kidnapping our heroine, who then has to dress as a cabin boy in order to protect herself and her lady's maid from the crew. Of course, she's in close proximity to our hero, and through the heroic acts that they each perform, I think they begin to deeply respect the other person before romantic feelings develop, which felt really satisfying. There were twists in this that I never expected. There were times that I gasped. It was a whole lot of piratey fun. I gotta share my first Tracy Sumner, which is actually the 6th book of the Duchess Society series. Oh my gosh, I enjoyed this so much, and I know I would have enjoyed it even more had I read the entire series, because we get quite a lot of an ensemble cast that's all happily together and cute with their inside jokes. And I was going, what? But I enjoyed this immensely. It gave me Lisa Kleypas's Again the Magic vibes, where we have childhood friends turn adolescent lovers, but then they're torn apart and they're both miserable. They're just living half lives until 20 years later when they encounter one another again. And maybe all the feelings are still there. And just to give you a little more backstory, Jasper Noble is our hero. He was nobody. And so, despite the fact that he and our heroine, Cece, loved each other so very much, she was a titled lady. He could never be with her. She has to marry some old guy who's got a title. And she says to him tearfully, just go. And so he does. He then becomes a spy. No one realizes who he really is. I loved going on a journey with them through house parties and late night dips in the lake, and there were just so many fun settings. We're in the city, we're in the country. It was like the consummate historical romance if you really just want to get away from it all and experience a good story that felt like a movie again. I found the emotion throughout and the intensity absolutely riveting. And man, can Sumner write a love scene. I just loved it. The hidden identity aspects of this were so fun, and I just was holding my breath waiting to see when they'd be together again. Oh, it was so good. Let's talk about Savannah Scott's A Not So Fictional Fall. This was part of the Sweater Weather series, which is a collection of sweet romantic comedies set in fall by various powerhouse authors who write sweet, clean, closed-door romances. And like all of Savannah Scott's book, I just adored this one. Our heroine, Tasha, is a book narrator who's actually living out her dreams by meeting her very favorite author of all time at an event. She believes that this author is a woman, but in fact, it's a man, a very handsome Frenchman who winds up needing her help. He needs to travel the country in order to promote his book, but in order to do it, he needs to marry an American. Well, Tasha's willing to help him out. They seem to be on the same page, but as they start living together turns them into far more than friends. I loved the vibes of this. I love how all of Savannah Scott's characters all just have these beautiful hearts and want the best for each other, and it was just so endearing and fun to read. I know whenever I read a Savannah Scott, I can just kick up my heels and enjoy myself and get those cozy vibes, and this one delivered and then some. Can't wait to read more of this author and have her on my channel next May. Now for the 10th spot, I had a little trouble deciding. I'm going to tell you the ones that were up for top 10, and then I'll give you the one that I want to really tell you a little bit more about because it bears a little explanation and it's good if you want something different. But all of these really would have made it into my 10th spot. Just Don't Fall, The Nightmare Before Christmas, A Raven's Heart, Courtshipped, and the one I want to talk to you a little bit more about, Puck and Prejudice. This one was fascinating. Was the writing always exceptional? No, although there were many highlightable lines. We have a mashup, literally a hockey player who travels back in time to Jane Austen's time, actually. In fact, he even meets Jane Austen, and our heroine is good friends with Jane Austen. He and our heroine become fast friends, but are very attracted to one another, as we discover early on. They decide to help one another out before he travels back to his own time. She's going to figure out how to help him get back to his own time if he marries her, because then once he dies by disappearing back to his own time, she will be a widow and be able to live out her life however she chooses. I found this fascinating. I actually learned a lot about history and just the inner workings of things that you don't normally hear about in historical romance, like what happened when people needed to go to the bathroom or needed help with their teeth. These types of things are never covered, and it felt like I had myself gone back in time and was experiencing these things. It was really inventive. Some of the plot points felt a bit contrived just to get from point A to point B, but that was fine. And sometimes it did read like a YA. We weren't getting a lot of the deeper feelings of the characters, but again, just the experience overall was really fascinating. The spicy scenes definitely did not feel YA. In fact, our hero's a talker. I'll say that. Many of you would love that. I also loved how different this was and that I really didn't know where this was going to go, how this would end. Well, that was that. Did you see any that you recognized? I have a feeling you did. What did you love this year? Be sure to let us know in the comments, or you can just leave me an emoji that really reflects how your reading went this year. I can't wait to see. Until next time, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying whatever it is you're reading, regardless of what year it is. Until next time, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.